Welcome to episode 15 of So You Want to Be a Star in the Music Business. Today's topic is kind of exciting for me. One thing I like about business is that you can always relate it to personal relationships, and that kind of brings it closer to home. Today's topic is, on the surface, sounds a little boring. We're talking about contracts, but what part of contracts we're going to discuss today is how to get out of a contract. So kind of like a premarital agreement. We have a lot of people that are excited to be in the business, they're performing, and you get to a situation where you want to work with people. So once you get your manager and the paperwork gets laid down, that's where the work starts. So the question is, how do you handle a situation when things are good, you're meeting for the first time, everybody is, it's like the honeymoon phase. You're just meeting this person, everything is good, nobody really wants to discuss paperwork, but that's the very thing that kind of needs to be in place at a certain point. So you want to have the options, or at least know how to get out of something before you get into it. So excuse the marriage part. You shouldn't be going into marriage thinking how to get out of this thing. But in the music business, it's pretty much a marriage between you and that manager, and you and that record company.
And everybody starts saying, hey, we're friends, we're in good spirit, everyone's trying to make it work. So what do we need a contract for? What do we need writing for? Why do we have to figure out how to get out of this? Because those of you who have been in the business know it always comes to a nasty end if it comes to an end.
Mm-hmm.
There are ways to avoid that. Or even if you hate contracts, even if you don't even read and write, you can turn to your manager, you can turn to your agent or to your lawyer, and you can say, where is the out clause? What does it say? And let them read it to you. Let them explain it to you. It's just simply called an out, O-U-T, clause. And basically, it's going to let you know how you get out of a contract. For example, a very quick story, and this is a true story, names left out on purpose.
Right.
A manager withheld. Manager said, okay, I like working with you. Here's an artist management contract for our firm. I need you to sign it by Friday or I'm going to cancel our deal. So take it home. It doesn't look particularly complicated. But basically it says, if you read between the lines, it says, I'm your manager for life. It doesn't have anything in there that says you can fire me. So this particular artist was smart enough to say, I need an out clause, and wrote one himself, which was, his own handwriting, just said, I want to add this in that, which basically says, hey, if you steal money from me or if I find out you're doing anything crooked, I can fire you. And he said, oh, of course, I'm not going to do that. No price. I said, well, then are you willing to put it in the contract?
Exactly.
He did. 4 months later, he caught the manager stealing money from him, and he fired him. And he now is a very successful artist and has a wonderful manager who doesn't do it. Just imagine if he had not included that. He would have been in court trying to get rid of this manager. Now, take it a step further. There are a lot of ways to get out of a contract. The easiest one, we're going to give you some steps. The easiest one is to just put a termination date in the contract. Mm-hmm. This contract starts tomorrow, January 1st, or whatever date, and it ends December 31st, period. You're out of the contract on December 31st. You may have to survive a whole year of torture, but at least you are out of the contract. There's an end date. Another thing to do is saying, we can get out of this contract by sending the other side a letter giving 2 months' notice, or 1 month notice, or 5 months' notice. Basically, you have to figure out how long is it going to take you to come out of the rubble after canceling the contract and get your career, or perhaps it's somebody in your band who leaves you and you have to replace them. How long will it take me to find somebody new? So you make it that length of time. So if you say 2 months, you send us a letter, say 2 months from now, this deal is over, and that's it. Don't even have to give a reason. Another one is, the most important one, is breach of contract. Whatever the agreement says you're supposed to do, if you don't do it, you're in breach. The contract automatically ends. All you have to do is send a notice saying to the other person, you breached the contract. You do have to give them a short period of time to fix it. You know, I don't. If you all of a sudden don't prepare dinner for me on a Thursday, and I let you know on Friday, well, the truth is, as long as you get back to making dinners as you promised in the contract, you should be allowed to keep the contract. There's got to be a reasonable chance for the person to fix whatever problem happened. Mm-hmm. And most importantly, by the way, whatever happens in a contract, any work that you or your manager or a band member or the recording label, anything that has been already done, these people continue to make money from past work. That should always be in a contract. If you recorded something for a label and they canceled your contract, you already recorded it. If they make money off of that recording, so should you. So it doesn't cancel money you should make from the past. Just a couple of more things. My favorite is called Any Reason Whatsoever. This contract may be canceled by either party for any reason whatsoever, as long as you give 2 months' notice or whatever it is. That is basing your contract on trust, and that's something that is not easy to do. Last night, is this freezing? I'm not sure if we just froze the video, but we're back. Last night on TV, I saw a 1990s rapper make a very basic statement explaining why he is no longer in the business. He just said, everyone in this business is a wolf. And it's a very simple statement. There are plenty of trustworthy people. I hope I'm one, I hope Kevin's one, I hope people you're working with. Mm-hmm. But you have to assume they're not. And people who are honest and trustworthy don't have a problem putting in a clause for your marriage, saying that the marriage is over and here's how we divide up the proceeds. You do that in advance when you're friends. The one last way to put this in, there are 2 more topics. I'm sorry. We're trying to give you everything we can here. Cause. If you say, we can cancel this contract for cause, that's a legal term that means if somebody did something like steal money or do something else illegal, or they came over and they punched you in the face, all of these are legitimate reasons to fire somebody. You may still have to go to court to prove it, but the court will side with you as long as there's a cause for this. Again, you may have to give everyone a second chance, but you keep records of it. You always write a letter. You always make sure somebody was a witness. You make sure you know that somebody hit you once, so if they hit you a second time, it's over, and you have the proof. And here's an interesting thing to throw in there. Let's say you get a job which is going to pay you $500 for the night. It's just you singing in a microphone with tracks. But 2 weeks before that, you find out that you can go on American Idol and make $4,000 performing that one night, and they're flying you out there. Well, $4,000 is a lot more money than $500. So if you write in your contract that you can cancel this with a couple of weeks' notice or whatever time you think is reasonable, when you get a better paying gig, the name of the clause is called more remunerative employment.
You might say that one again.
You can look it up. Remunerative. R-E-M-U-N. E-R, ative, A-T-I-V-E. Okay. More remunerative employment. It just says, hey, I'm agreeing to do this, but you agree to let me out of my contract if I can prove that I got a better paying job for that night. Sometimes the other side is going to say, hey, only if it's a movie. I'm not going to let you out of this live show if it's just another live show. You promised to be here. Mm-hmm. That's a negotiation. That's whatever the two sides think is fair. But it is a great way to get out of a contract.
So, Mitch, with all these clauses that you just mentioned, it makes it seem really easy to get out of your management contract. But what about a 50-page contract with the record label?
Kevin, first of all, it's never easy. Remember, both sides, we're sitting here smiling. If I were to try to do some of these out clauses with Kevin, he might go, like hell.
Right.
And then we have to discuss it. That's often the reason you use a lawyer. Not because they're smarter than you are, but because they talk to each other as objective representations of you and the other party. So it doesn't get personal. You don't start screaming at each other. You don't get irrational. Mm-hmm. The lawyers are just trying to come up with a compromise. Hopefully, though, you come up with at least one or two out clauses that give you a way out. The worst part, as Kevin just brought up, has to do with record labels. You get a record deal. I'm not going to go into the different types, but they think, hey, look, we're going to put out this person's first record. If it's a hit, we want to know that we have the right to put out a second and third record. Mm-hmm. Well, that's pretty common. But what happens if your first record is a flop? Then the record label goes, and we're not really going to, we may let you record a second one, but we may not release it. We're not going to promote it. We're not going to put any money into marketing. But your contract says you can't get out of it until you have done 3 recordings. Or you can't get out of it until 3 years have gone by. You are stuck. You can't look for another recording label. So again, if you have an out clause that says, I agree to this, but if the record label does not release my second, I'm out of the contract. If they don't put X amount of money into the marketing of my second record, I'm out. This, again, is a great thing for a lawyer to negotiate or a manager to negotiate on your behalf. On that note, I think this is a long enough episode.
Oh, yeah.
And we thank you. It's MWEntGroup.com is a website.
To find out more information on what we just spoke about, as far as the out clause, you guys need to take a look at this book. This is the drop. Managing Artists in Pop Music, written by yours truly to my left and the co-writer Perry Gaffney. But this explains the out clause in layman's terms, so it's not going to be difficult to understand.
It's a second edition, Amazon.com. It's, what is it, $10?
It's about $10.
But you're going to have all these details in there. And thank you, and we'll see you next time.